Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And we'll just call this meeting back to order. We started at 6 o'clock and went into closed session. Will please stand for the national anthem, please. Okay, I would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. We've already done disclosure of pecuniary interests, and there were none. So now we did the closed meeting, and we're going to have the rise and report on the closed meeting from the clerk.
Council met in closed session to receive legal advice and provide direction respecting 3 potential disposition of land matters. Council received information respecting a grievance matter and a matter pertaining to negotiations affecting the municipality. A procedural vote was also taken to adopt previous closed session minutes.
Thank you. And the mayor's remarks. Please note that the meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the Township website and youtube.com. We ask that you keep, as well, any mobile devices turned off or muted during the meeting. With recent concerns regarding the COVID coronavirus outbreak, you'll notice the hand sanitizer that was brought to our attention recently about not being hand sanitizer at the front of our public areas. And so we have now, internally, we've prepared business continuity in Niagara Regional Public Health continues to closely monitor the situation updates, and we've placed those bottles of hand cleaner at all our public buildings. Staff Sergeant Rob LaPlante of the Niagara Regional Police District 6, which is Port Colborne, and I made a presentation yesterday to Mr. Colin Filson to recognize his years of service to the township. Mr. Filson was the Chief of Police in Wainfleet from 1960 to 1971, and when the Niagara Regional Police Force was formed. It was an excellent little gathering we had. His family was there. We gave him some, it's been in the media, you may have read it, we gave him some documents which we dug out of the basement from 1960 with his original signatures on it, and it was a very nice ceremony. The Chief of Police came over, and it was really nice. 2020 budget deliberations continue with special meetings. One scheduled for Wednesday, March 11th and Monday, March 16th. And all the budget meetings start at 7. They're public. I encourage everybody who's interested in our budget to come out and be able to listen to the debate and discussions going on as we deliberate the budget. The drainage program open house will be held Wednesday, March 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Wainfleet Firefighters Memorial Community Hall. There will be a brief presentation from staff related to the scheduled 2020 maintenance and ongoing engineers report updates. Police Services Board and Regional Council both meet next week, Thursday, March 26 at 8:30 and 6:30 respectively. And our next regular meeting of council here is held Tuesday, March 31st at 7 p.m. Are there any comments from any councillors, discussion, anything you wish to announce? Councillor Cridlin?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. The next regular scheduled NPCA board meeting is Wednesday, February 18th at 9:30. I'm sorry, March. Oh, March, right, sorry. And again, those are also live streamed. And I just wanted to also thank the chief for arranging and the staff for arranging the fire hall tour. That was excellent, high value, and hopefully we can turn that into results for everybody in the town. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Van Vliet?
I just wanted to let everybody know the next age-friendly advisory committee meeting is March 20th at the Friendship Room at the Fire Hall, and that I will be going on April 1st on a Greater Niagara Circle Route tour. If anybody has any feedback, send it to my email.
Thank you. And anything else? Okay, we'll now go through our minutes of our previous meetings. The first one was February 18th at 7 p.m. Any issues, concerns? Okay, the next one's February 26th. We'll do them all here. March the 2nd and March the 4th, which was a budget meeting. Any omissions, discussion? Okay, seeing none, those minutes are all passed. And we have no delegations this evening, and so we'll move into the staff reports. And we'll ask our treasurer, Ms. Louie, would you like to provide a brief overview of your report?
This is just a routine report. The property in question was damaged by fire. The homeowners applied for a reduction to the 2019 taxes from October 15th to December 31st, and the municipal portion is $207.30.
Thank you. So the recommendations are that the admin staff report ASR 005-2020 respecting cancellation, reduction, and refund of property tax be received, and that council approve the attached application pursuant to Section 357 of the Municipal Act 2001, numbered 2019-07, to write off the taxes in the amount of $473.81. Could I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Gilmore, seconder. Councillor McClellan. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to ASR 006-2020. And Ms. Louie, would you like to provide a brief overview of that?
So this report is just to extend our contract with the auditors. It expired for the year ended 2017. Last year a report was brought for the 2018 audit year, and we extended just for 1 year. So this report is to extend for another 4 years. And there is no change to the 2019 audit fees, and then a small increase for the next 3 years following that.
Okay, thank you. So this admin staff report ASR be received, and staff is recommending that Grant Thornton LLP's contract be extended another 4 years, and they be appointed the Township of Wainfleet's auditors for the fiscal years ending December 31st, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Van Vliet and Councillor McClellan. And discussion. Councillor Cridlin.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I may have missed this, but is this part of the opportunities we may have to work with other municipalities? Does this fall into that basket? Or is it already in light of that kind of synergy? Thank you.
Look to the CAO to comment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The selection of auditors was one of the items that as CAOs we had identified as being a potential area. It was actually previously looked into by CAOs a number of years ago, well prior to my being with the township, and there were some, I don't want to say issues, but there were some disparities in the way the organizations worked, their size and all that sort of stuff, which resulted in a situation where there were not really any savings to be had by municipalities doing sort of collaborative purchasing. That said, we are looking at it again, and the CEOs are working right now on preparing a report to come forward at a future date that will sort of outline some of those other alternatives and synergies that might exist. That said, I don't want to do anything. I don't think anything in that report should derail or sidetrack sort of the situation we have in front of us now. And frankly, as indicated by Ms. Louie, the proposal put forward is, from a cost-effective perspective, very good. And based on the service levels we've had in the past, I don't think there's any issue or any hesitation from staff recommending we proceed with what we have now.
Okay, any other discussion, questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, none opposed. It's carried. And we'll move to our drainage staff report regarding Indian Creek Drain, Section 78 report extension. And I'll look to our drainage superintendent, Mark Jemison, to speak to that.
Great. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So this staff report is just a housekeeping report. This time last year, Dietrich Engineering was appointed to complete a Section 78 report on the Indian Creek Drain. Under Section 39 of the Drainage Act, that report needs to be filed as soon as it's complete, within 1 year or within a time period extended by council. So we held the on-site meeting in August, and the preliminary plans are being reviewed by the regulatory agencies. So that review and the public consultation can often take more than 1 year, so this is a fairly common circumstance. So the recommendation put forward is to extend by resolution the filing of time for this report.
Okay, thank you. So the recommendation is that the drainage staff report DSR 002-2020 regarding Indian Creek Municipal Drain, Section 78 report extension be received, and that council extend the time by 1 year for filing report for the Indian Creek Drain under Section 39 Sub 1 of the Drainage Act 1990. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Van Vliet, Councillor McClellan, and discussion. Okay, seeing no discussion, all in favor? And that is carried. Move on to the fire staff report, and I'll ask the chief to provide an overview of that, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This staff report is regarding the 2019 annual review for fire services. As is standard, our primary focus was the 3 lines of defense, being public education, fire prevention through enforcement, and emergency response. In 2019, Wainfleet Fire and Emergency Services attended 16 various public education events, reaching approximately 2,400 people combined. That's a pretty good step when you consider what the population of the municipality is. With regards to fire inspections, 13 inspections on properties were conducted as a result of either a request, complaint, or post-incident follow-up. Of those, 39% were residential, 15% multi-unit residential, 31% commercial retail, and 15% institutional. Of those inspections, only 2 resulted in Provincial Offences Act charges being laid against the property owners. All others required minor modification or were compliant with the Ontario Fire Code. Moving to emergency responses, we responded to 211 incidents, with the summer months being our busiest. Of those, 13 were fires. 5 of those fires were structure fires with a combined loss of about $698,000. The estimated value of the property at risk was about $1.57 million, which means that our value of property saved was about $880,000. When comparing that saved value to the operational budget, that's about a 2% return on investment of money spent in the fire service versus property saved. Understanding that emergency response is only one small piece of the overall operating of the fire department. In addition to that, response times have been reduced from 10 minutes to about 8.5 minutes, which is well within the NFPA standard 1720, where they require 6 firefighters within 14 minutes, 80% of the time. This is largely due to the fact that we've increased our firefighters on the roster, but also the fact that we now have a few regular township staff that are able to respond during business hours. And if you look at the time of call per day, the 1 to 2 o'clock time in the middle of the afternoon is our response. So that's certainly helping there. You will see that there's a slight trend up in medical responses. All of our firefighters are standard first aid trained CPR with defibrillation under our base hospital program with Niagara Medical. And we do have some firefighters that are also Canadian Red Cross trained to emergency first responder. And that provides that additional patient packaging, additional medical training. We should see a change in that moving into 2020. In September of 2019, EMS made a change to the priority dispatching. So no longer is fire getting called out to the shortness of breath at 3 a.m. after 3 days of feeling ill. It's the priority 1, priority 2. So, vital signs absent, cardiac events, sudden onset type things, traumas. So we should see a decrease there because we're not getting called to those minor incidents anymore. You will see a change in the burn complaints over from 2019 and 2018. Previously, prior to my arrival, all open air burn complaints were actually reported as open air fires. So we've changed that so it's not reported as a fire, and we've converted that or changed it over to a burn complaint or by law enforcement. So that explains the change there. Really, both, if you look at the numbers, they kind of equal out between the two. Training. Firefighters were trained in all aspects of the fire service through the delivery, the levels of service that were approved by council and the ENR. And as you can see, multiple NFPA certificates were awarded through 2019. With regards to facilities, apparatus, and equipment, facilities were mostly untouched, other than just minor maintenance and regular operations as needed. Apparatus, as previously reported, our older vehicles are the largest cost center, mainly with pumps, suspensions, and drivetrains were the largest issue on our 3 oldest trucks. As requested, the combined forecasted replacement value is about $4.8 million with our fleet. We did have the skid unit and trailer that was purchased in 2019, and that went with the UTV that was donated by Bergs. And there was a custom rack fabricated by a local machine shop that was donated for the skid unit to be mounted in the UTV. The radio system, the portables, mobiles, all of the end user gear, that has been purchased and installed, and we have noticed an increase in the reliability and the communications there. All other equipment that was approved in the annual capital replacement project for standardization and long-term planning has been purchased and will continue to be purchased on an as-needed basis. In addition to that, the PPE replacement either meets or exceeds NFPA and MOL requirements and is purchased with that long-term plan in place. We did receive a couple of donations, most notably Benberg Farm Supply did donate the UTV, and Firehouse Subs Public Safety Council did donate $38,000 for 2 battery-operated extrication tools that were now on the trucks and housed at stations 3 and 4. The final piece to that is our benchmarking or the performance measurement. This was taken as an opportunity to kind of see how Wainfleet Fire compares to the other departments in the region. This information was gathered from the most recent financial information returns that can be found online, as well as the 2016 census data. So you're able to go through and you can see, cost per capita, Wainfleet Fire fits right in the middle, the middle 4. Cost per household, we're right in the middle of 4. Percentage of budget allocated to the fire services, we're in the middle 4. Understanding that we don't have transit, we don't have water, wastewater services, so that's pretty good, the fact that, we're in the middle group and we don't have those. Cost per square kilometer, we're the second lowest cost to provide service. The key takeaway is that at the end of the day, Wainfleet Fire does operate sustainably, meeting the needs of the community. We're not on all hazards. We don't have, ice water submersion. We don't have high angle. We don't have, hazmat. But we meet the needs of our community in a way that is sustainable, and no matter where you go in the region, it's affordable. And then in 2020, looking ahead, we're currently in our joint recruit training program with Fort Erie. We've added 7 recruits to 2020, so that'll bring our total complement to 50. And our primary objectives will continue with our on-scene decontamination, cancer reduction, and mental health protection. SCBA will be the largest capital project in preparation for any other large purchase, and we'll continue to progress on the facilities maintenance and the fire station project. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief. And recommendation is that this fire staff report 005-2020 regarding annual report 2019 be received for information. Of a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Cridland, Councillor Van Vliet, and discussion questions. Okay, seeing none, sneak it in at the end. Yeah, Councillor Craylin.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I just want to wait to make sure I'm not always first to the mic. Having said that, I enjoy it. So first of all, I want to thank the chief for a great report. 41 pages that I would ask everybody in the township to read, please. So in terms of transparency, I don't think you could ask for better. I read it over. I learned a lot. I feel safer. So mostly just comments. I especially would direct people that, you know, are concerned at all with perhaps the, you know, where we sit in the pack is the pages 37 and 38. There's good news and bad news in there, or good news and reality news, however you want to look at that. So again, a great report to answer pretty much any concerns. My only comment is with the new, this is to test to see if I actually know what we're buying out there in terms of fire equipment. The SCBA stuff. I know that we got together, it looks like through the year, as a training exercise. I've got to find the page because it was a great photograph. Again, please go through this report in detail. Where we're all on the ice with those packs on page 22. And so with the new tanks, are we going to be able to do a better job on the ice? Thank you.
Will we do a better job? I can't say. I can't skate to save my life, but I'll be able to skate longer.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments regarding receiving this report? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of receiving this report? Okay, and that is carried. Thank you. Okay, and we're moving on to revisions to the open air burning bylaw, and I'll look to the chief again for a brief overview.
Yeah, so this memo speaks to the draft open air bylaw that was requested to be reviewed. During the last meeting, there was some discussion about definitions, appropriate weather conditions. So some of the revisions I'll just highlight here. Under definitions, appropriate weather conditions, we've added the fact that the wind speed at the location of the fire does not exceed 15 kilometers, so it's not municipal wide, it's at the location of the fire. And we have ways of reading that, and that's fine. Under section 4 exemptions, one of the things that was brought forward was, what is the acceptable size of the pit, what's allowed, and then obviously, so we've added the, commensurate with the type and quantity of the food being prepared, and that wording's been taken right from the Ontario Fire Code. Additionally, one of the discussions was with regards to recreational campfires and the 2 hour sunset 2 hours. So my recommendation in the change there is that it just be a set time, set no sooner than or no earlier than 7 p.m. and extinguished no later than 7 a.m. Again, following the standard understanding that, with the diurnal weather patterns, you have relative humidity and wind that plays a factor to the ability to control and contain a fire that may escape. With regards to agricultural burn permits, there was some discussion about the size, so that has been amended more in line with some other municipalities in the fact that there's the larger piles that are permitted, but also that there's 2 piles permitted. And then also with regards to commercial and industrial burning, that the chief or designate may shorten or extend the permit period if required. We do have some commercial operators who request to burn year-round, so not just one-time events, so that's been added. With regards to the permit fees and permit types, that will be adjusted when we review the fees and charges bylaw. So that's not really necessary to be discussed at this point. And then the last piece is that there will be a requirement to amend the non-parking amps to allow for the set fines or set penalties.
Okay, thank you. Mover, seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Gilmore, Councillor Cridlin, and discussion. Questions? Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. I realize that the fees and charges will be reviewed at a later date. I just want to be on record that I'd prefer to see the agricultural fee of $5 be removed, and that I'd also prefer that the residential fee be reduced to 0, although I can live with leaving it where it's been for the last 12 or 14 years, whatever it's been. But, in light of the fact that we're going to go to an online system where people can apply for permits online, I realize there is an expense to that, but I see these, sort of see these things as things that need to be corporately funded rather than individual. Like, I don't see the point in processing a $5 payment from an agricultural operation, and to a certain extent, I feel the same way about the residential permit. But so just putting it out there so that when we do talk about it, you can think about the rest of my colleagues can think about it and maybe hear back feedback from people. But that's going to be where I'm going to settle. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on that? I'll throw my 2 cents worth in as well. I tend to agree on the agricultural. $5, it's hardly worth the paperwork or the staff time to process something like that. So my opinion only. So any other questions, discussion? Okay, all in favor of receiving that? And that is carried. Okay, we're moving on to planning staff report 004-2020, zoning bylaw, file number Z06 2019 1184-505, Ontario Limited. Joyce Sonnefeld and Samantha Sonnefeld Visser are the agents. And we'll look to our planner, Sarah, to speak to that, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The subject property is located on the south side of Regional Road 27 between Regional Road 24 and Hewitt Road, and is known municipally as 61953 Regional Road 27. So this zoning amendment is required as a condition of approval for a surplus farm dwelling application that was provisionally approved by the Committee of Adjustment in December of 2019. The application proposes to rezone Part 1 from an agricultural transition A1 zone to an agricultural transition A1-27 zone, and that recognizes a reduced lot frontage of 10.77 meters, while also maintaining the fish habitat overlay that exists. The application then proposes to rezone Part 2 from agricultural transition A1 and an agricultural A2 zone to an A1-1 and an A2-1 zone, which prohibits dwellings while maintaining the fish habitat and environmental protection overlays on Part 2. And as I said, that's a requirement for a surplus farm dwelling severance. So we had a public meeting for this zoning amendment at the last council meeting on February 18th. At that time, there was no public input or questions from council. So my report goes into the thorough review against provincial, regional, and township planning policies. And I'm of the opinion that the application is consistent with those policies and have recommended approval.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation is that the planning staff report PSR 004-2020 be received, and that the application Z06 2019 for lands described as part of Lot 18 and 19, Concession 6, Township of Wainfleet, known municipally as 61953 Regional Road 27, be approved for the reasons outlined in PSR 004-2020. And that the application is deemed to be consistent with the Provincial Policy Statement 2014 and other matters of provincial interest, and that the zoning bylaw amendment attached as Appendix C be adopted. I have a mover and a seconder for that, Councillor Gilmore, Councillor Van Vliet, and any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried. Okay, we move to PSR 005-2020, Committee of Adjustment vacancy, and I'll ask our planner to speak to that too, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have received a resignation from one of our Committee of Adjustment members, and that committee deals with a number of matters, including property standards, fence viewers, dog control, bylaw appeal committee. So with the vacancy, I'm seeking direction that we fill that immediately by advertising a call for applications, both in Niagara this week and through the Township's website, Facebook page, and our digital sign. I've recommended that the application due date be 2 p.m. on Friday, March 27th. that will allow staff time to circulate the applications to council for consideration at the March 31st council meeting. And then that would also allow some time to get that member trained in time for the April 15th committee hearing.
Okay, thank you for that. And so the staff is recommending that Planning Staff Report PSR 005-2020 be received, and that staff be directed to initiate a call for applications to fill the vacancy for the Committee of Adjustment, Property Standards Committee, Fence Viewers, Dog Control Bylaw Appeal Committee. I have a mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor McClellan, Councillor Cridland, and discussion. Councillor Cridland.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. In addition to what you're recommending, could we just maybe add a thank you note for the gentleman that's no longer able to serve? I think he's served for quite some time, at least 2 terms, I think. So it would just be nice to add a thank you for that.
Excellent point, and we'll be sure to do that. Any other discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving to the memo regarding the abandoned rail corridor, and I'll look to our planner, Sarah, to speak to that too, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the township acquired an abandoned rail corridor that runs west to east from Wainfleet Dunville Town Line Road to Deeks Road South, between Forks Road, Highway 3, and Wilford Road. In 2010, the township then decided to dispose of the rail corridor as surplus lands, had the corridor surveyed with the intent of selling sections of that corridor to adjacent landowners. So interested landowners are required to file an application along with a required application fee, and upon closing are responsible to pay their proportionate share of the survey costs plus interest and their own legal fees. So we have since received an additional 2 applications to purchase parts of the rail corridor between Smith Road and Marr Road. And in order to complete that transaction, a bylaw is required to be adopted by council, and that bylaw is on the agenda this evening for consideration.
Okay, thank you. May I have a mover and seconder to receive this memo? Councillor Cridland and Councillor McClellan, and discussion, please. Councillor McClellan.
You, Mr. Mayor, on this one, I'm not going to object, but I think anything further down the line, we need to have a closed meeting discussion on what we're going to do with this. I have some issues that we're not taking care of here. So when we have time, we can bring it up in a closed session. This one here, it's done, it's over with. I don't have a problem with it. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we do have a number of these, and it would be prudent for us to put in place a policy or some sort of a guideline on these so that we're not winging it each time we come into it. So, any other discussion? Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just there is a policy regarding how we've disposed of this. So the total corridor had about 144 parts that we divided it up into. And so if these 2 applications are approved, we only have about 24 parts left in that whole process. So like I said, this started in 2010, and initially there was a lot of uptake on acquiring these parcels. So we're kind of near the end of the disposal of the corridor, but certainly we can go into closed session and discuss going forward.
Okay, thank you. And I think we'll direct staff to do that. We'll have a discussion on this in closed session to ensure we're on a consistent path. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we'll move to correspondence. C068-2020, a request for proclamation and flag raising for autism campaign. Correspondence is received from Autism Ontario Niagara chapter, respecting an invitation to participate in Autism Ontario's Raise the Flag campaign and proclaim Thursday, April 2nd, 2020 as World Autism Awareness Day. Any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, can I have a mover, seconder for that? Councillor McClellan, Councillor Cridlin. No other discussion, all in favor? And that is carried. And we'll do the same. We also have correspondence item C081-2020 received from Karen Usick, Niagara Health Community Coordinator, requesting Wainfleet proclaim July 28th, 2020 as World Hepatitis Day, and the floor is open for any discussion on that. Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Oh, did we move her seconder? Councillor Gilmore, Councillor McClellan, and all in favor. Good, thank you. And now we move into the bylaws. Bylaw 8-13 is listed on the agenda, be read and passed this 10th day of March 2020. Can I have a mover and, I get. Okay, so we'll do all the bylaws in block. Okay, so if I could have a mover and a seconder for all the bylaws. Councillor Cridlin moves it. Councillor Gilmore second. Any discussion? Concerns any of them? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Okay, are there any notices of motion? Okay, seeing no notices of motion. And do we have anything further for a closed meeting? No? Okay, and bylaw to confirm. Okay, that bylaw number 14, 2020 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the council at its meeting on February 18th, 26th, March 2nd, 4th, and 10th, 2020 be read and passed. And can I have a mover, seconder? Councillor Cridlin, Councillor Gilmore, all in favor, and that is carried. If there's no other issues, we will adjourn our meeting. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.